Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge the original custodians of the land we are tuning in on. We pay our respects to the lands, people and the water. We also acknowledge the elders from the past, present and the emerging. Thank you for joining us today. We've got probably about an hour and a half's worth of big conversations. We're tuning in, we've got some of my friends in the waiting room there. Are we ready to let them in so I can introduce them? Hello, yes. It's working. Success. All right, Dan, thanks for waiting for his video to come on. Hey everyone.
Guys.
Hi. Oh, where's Jake?
Hello.
Where's Jake?
Morgan.
Look at us all in portrait. No, it's landscape mode. Such professionals.
How are we doing?
I'm just going to refresh my Facebook here. So for everyone that's tuning in on. Oh, they're there. We've got them there. So we've got a few people that have jumped on to say hello and good morning. So what we'll be doing today, guys, is we're going live via Zoom. Jake's in the house. Hello. So what we will be doing today is we'll be chatting in this Zoom. It's live streaming onto Facebook. If you drop your comments, your questions, just in the chat on Facebook, I'm reading them so I can relay them to the team as well because they're focused in on the Zoom. We have got 10 hot topics. Hopefully I can read my own writing back later. Oh, we're recording now too. It's all happening. So what we might do is I'm going to actually start off by introducing everybody now that we're live and we know everyone's here. So I'm going to introduce you guys one at a time. What I'll do is I'll say a little bit about you guys and then I'll get you guys to tell us a little bit more about yourself. I am going to be a strict timekeeper today. I've got my bell. I'm stoked. I'm not afraid to use it. But first off, so the reason that we're all here today is Laura Spinney. So Laura was meant to be doing a cutting class for us yesterday. And unfortunately, due to Laura being in lockdown, myself being in lockdown, Andre being in lockdown, everyone almost being in lockdown, Laura was the one who actually suggested that we come on a Zoom today and we all chat, and she roped in all of her amazing friends to come and do it. So thank you, Laura, for putting it together today.
Pleasure.
What can we say about Laura Spinney? Laura Spinney is pushing the uncomfortable conversations and advocating for change amongst every facet of hair and beauty. What else would you tell us about yourself, Laura?
I don't know. Thank you so much, everyone, firstly, for coming on. I know that we're all in different states and I mean that logistically and mentally as well. So thank you so much. Look, that pretty much sums it up. I'm a freelancer. I work for myself. I'm enjoying having these uncomfortable conversations, especially during lockdown. I think there's lots of things to be changed in this industry, and trying to do it with the help of the people that are on the screen here, especially Jake. He really tries to keep me calm, whereas I like to go at things like a bull in a china shop. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a pretty, I guess, assertive person. Yeah, that's about it. And I love hair.
Beautiful. So most of you guys would probably know Michael Kelly by now. So Michael Kelly is a leading education specialist and colour magician. MK joins the convo to bring a fresh perspective from tried and tested tools on nurturing growth and development of teams to building a personal brand that is recognisably your own. With close to 20 years in the game and having headed up education and development for some of the industry's biggest salon groups, Michael knows what it takes to be successful in both business and on the floor.
Period. That's all I've got to say. I just want to say I'm so happy to be a part of the conversation. Thanks, Mia, Laura, and the crew for having me. I think, Laura, you're really right about the conversations. Sometimes they can be uncomfortable, but I mean, by having more of these conversations, I'm really hoping that uncomfortable gets removed and it just becomes a part of the general conversations that we're all having together. So I'm just super stoked to be here and to be in such great company, guys.
All right, next up, I'm going to introduce Dan. So Dan is a freelance BIPOC hair colorist with over 10 years of experience in some of Australia's leading salons. So for those of you that don't know what BIPOC stands for, it stands for Black Indigenous People of Colour. Dan is breaking away from the traditional mould. He is now incorporating spiritual and holistic hair practices into his work and is an advocate for textured Afro hair visibility in the mainstream.
That's great. I don't know how else to elaborate on that introduction, but yeah, no, thank you. I'm very honored to be a part of a speaking panel with the rest of you guys, and you guys are all amazing at in each and every one of your fields. So yeah, I'm happy to be here with you guys this morning. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. Next up, I've got Megan. Megan is sharing her light and love with her team in the hopes that their energy will help heal others.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you for inviting me, Laura. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, so I suppose like one of the things that I've done recently is start up a little thing called Unity, Hair Education and Collaboration with my very good friend Abby Wales. So one of the things that we want to do with that is really connect the hairdressing community in a way that we don't think it's really been done before, and kind of give a platform to amazing artists who perhaps otherwise don't get recognised.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Sorry, I'm not being rude here. I'm just replying to a comment. So if I do end up over here, it's because the other computer is there. All right. So next up, we've got Jake. So Jake is, I love Jake's intro. Jake is bored in a backpackers building tools for emotional well-being from lockdown. For emotional and mental well-being from lockdown. So Jake, can you tell us what you're up to at the moment?
Well, I got out of the backpackers actually, and then got down to Byron on out-of-call country. And the day I got in, we actually went into
lockdown.
It's following you, Jake.
The bio is still relevant. maybe more relevant than before.
All right. So what we're going to do is we've actually got a question coming through, a little bit off topic, but we're going to answer it first. Lyndall Salmon is on and she said, OMG, Megan, where did you get that jumper?
So Bailey, who works for me, found it secondhand at like a pop-up store in a Westfield.
Deal.
Cool. All right. Well, that's got the hard-hitting questions out. We're good to continue on now.
Go home.
So I've got a little disclaimer today, because this was actually something that we had a group chat in the lead up to this, and even just in the group chat, I felt every now and again I was just like, oh, it's a little bit hot in here. And it actually had a sentence in there which I thought was an amazing sentence, and it said, "This is a dialogue, not a discrimination." I think that's a really, really good way for us to I guess just sort of like put that forth at the very beginning, because obviously, we're all going to have different opinions. People watching are all going to have different opinions. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's literally just a conversation. Sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. I've got my bell. I'm not sure what I really need the bell for. If
you get the red cards, Mia?
I've got the Michael Jackson popcorn ready to go. I've got I don't know, is this why you always lying, or is this smart? I don't know. Anyway, I've got this guy for when it gets a little bit awkward.
I do have red and yellow cards.
Nice.
And this is how I would describe everyone on the panel today. So, amazing, fantastic, never been seen before. So I am stoked to be here. We're entering this conversation, it's a safe space. We're entering as friends. We're all going to leave as friends. So I don't want anyone who's watching who might think, oh, they're disagreeing with each other, or this is happening. Like, don't make it something that it's not. It's literally just, a really good time and space for us to have this convo for the industry. So we're going to kick it off now. We've got 10 topics. Should I run through what the topics are first, do you think, guys? Or do you think we just roll it out? Yeah. All right.
Keep them guessing.
All right. So topic number 1, COVID and lockdowns. Are we coping or not coping? I might go to Michael first.
Look, I am coping. I think that I'm generally running it at like 150% most of the time. So I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to get back on the tools, but I'm coping. Yeah, I'm good.
What about everybody else? Are we all, is everyone going to speak on every topic? How do you guys want to do this?
Yeah.
If you want to pass on something, feel free to pass as well.
Have you been practicing your moderating, Mia?
Have I been practicing my moderating?
She's got 2 kids.
I was supposed to watch Q&A last night and I didn't. I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything until this morning. I'm on lockdown.
She eliminated memes.
So the pressure's on. We've got a lot of people watching. So who's not in lockdown at the moment?
Me. I'm in Adelaide. So, I feel like I can't necessarily really talk on this too much. Last year when we went into lockdown, I had just signed a lease on a new big salon and all the rest of it. So that was really stressful because I really didn't know if my business was going to even come back. I didn't know what was going to happen. But you know, like being in Adelaide, like I said yesterday, you know, like we're in a sleepy conservative state, and our premier just listens to the health advice of St. Nicola, who is our chief medical officer here. And so like they just go hard and fast, which has kind of worked for us. Obviously, we're a lot smaller state. So yeah, I think this is kind of, I'm going to give you guys the floor on this one.
I'm going to go next. So coping, super grateful that I work for myself, don't have employees. I don't have a business that I have to keep paying too much for. If I don't work, I don't pay, and I don't get paid. But I think we're pretty fortunate here in Australia. Our cases are fairly low. So coping in terms of financial, every day is different when it comes to mental. Last week, for some reason, was a particularly bad week. Why? Not sure. But yeah, doing okay for now, for sure. Dan, Jake?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm also in lockdown.
I'm just
I
going to
am.
excuse myself for one moment because my mum has just rocked up randomly to the salon and she's banging on the door. So
bring her in.
You guys continue.
Bring her in to say hi.
Yeah, bring her in.
Dan.
Yes, no, I'm also in lockdown, but I'm definitely coping. I'm definitely coping. And we do have help out there, so that's something that I'm grateful for. And, you know, we're lucky enough to have the advancements of technologies to be able to communicate the way that we are right now. So we're not at too much of a loss, but no, yes, definitely coping.
Cool. That's good.
I mean, we could open the discussion of what's the line between coping and not coping.
Well, it's different for everyone, I reckon, isn't it?
No,
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
So, I mean, without kind of picking one or the other, it's just like every day keeps evolving to something else. And I think having a solid practice within my own days has been allowing me to adapt to the situations. And my circumstance was I left Sydney just in time so that I could get out and get into Brisbane so we could do this workshop that we were going to do, and waited in a backpackers for 4 weeks. And then Brisbane went into lockdown and cancelled that. And it's just like, for fuck's sake. So then I've gone like, okay, get out of here. Queensland looks like it's going to be ongoing. Got down to Byron, then copped the lockdown here. And I'm like, but, you know, just letting go of the attachments to the way that I thought things were going to go, and being able to just turn all the things off and just sit, meditate, stretch, walk in the grass and do the things I can do.
Nice.
All right, guys. So it's good to hear that on most days you guys are doing fairly okay. I'm such an introvert. I'm loving lockdown. I'm going to struggle when we have to come out, I think.
I'm stressed about that.
Can I just,
for sure.
on that topic, can I just ask, like, you guys are all educators, right? So, like, you know, what potentially could we do to support you guys? Like, you know, are you doing some online education or anything like that?
Yeah, Secret Fox.
Yeah.
Well, I did my business many years ago, so I guess I was fairly set up when shit hit the fan last year. But I know Laura's actually going to be doing a Zoom education for my team next week on Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, and I've done one for Same But Different down in Melbourne, and then a couple of other people joined as well, and Salankin and Kaya as well. So that's been hard, actually, because I feel like I've forgotten how to cut hair or interact with people. I'm not sure which one's harder, but it's been really good. Actually, it gets me out of bed, gets my routine going in the morning, and I'm always in a good mood afterwards. So yeah, I definitely would encourage doing that, even if it's just with like some colleagues or a small team, for sure. Like, it's great.
Is anyone else offering anything like that to people, or can people get in touch with you guys?
Yeah,
I started go, Michael.
No, I was just going to say that I have just made myself more available to the people around me, which includes, like, I've had lots of in-depth phone calls with business owners, salon friends, just people who may be struggling or maybe not, like just checking in a lot. All of that's been free of charge. I haven't wanted to make anything from it, but I've also found that it's been really great for me, my motivation, and also like me kind of processing these lockdowns and, you know, having to move like 8 in salon workshops and, you know, like even like beyond that, thinking about clients and XYZ that comes with like getting out of lockdown. It's actually been super great to just connect with people because, you know, like I feel like I'm pretty measured when it comes to my mental health, and I know what I need to do to feel good on a daily basis.
I think this is probably a really good segue into personal development versus technical development. I sort of think that you know, everybody that I'm looking at in this group here has probably spent a lot of time on their personal development to get to where they are. Do you guys want to talk about that? I might actually go with Jake first because I think this is one of Jake's things.
Something I brought into my education, actually, knowing from my first hand experience in improving my personal development, has worked its way into my technical work, and sharing that as education with people. You know, if you're just smashing out clients every 30 minutes and not allowing yourself space to even think about it, your work's going to be performing pretty unwell. And when I've actually taken more time to myself to actually do my exercise, focus on my eating, my diet and everything else, that I've been able to then work more effectively, and clients are like noticing, oh, your work's improved, you know. So bringing personal development into our work.
Yeah, I think on that, one of the things that I really practice a lot is sort of, you know, like energy stuff in the salon, because, you know, like we take on people's energy. There's not very many professions out there where we really work in people's energy fields, like we work in their space for long periods of time. We talk to them about their traumas. You know, sometimes we talk to them about ours as well. And I think, you know, like having that sort of that practice as well, which is something that I do in my personal life, but I also really bring it into my salon a lot as well, for my team, to give them an opportunity to be able to cleanse themselves of anybody else's baggage. And, you know, because we, like, there's so much, even with our staff, like, you know, like with our teams, like people that we work with, like it's really important to be able to kind of, you know, like remove ourselves from that situation. And when we can do that, I think, yeah, we are better hairdressers, so much better.
What are your thoughts, Megan? I saw something a while ago, and it was to do with asking permission before letting go of your trauma onto someone else in a non-professional environment. So I've always seen a psychologist. I think they are amazing, love them. However, that's a professional situation where you probably don't need to. But I have a lot of clients, and some of my clients sometimes will, in the very first meeting, tell me of pretty intense traumas. And I really struggle with that sort of, I guess, energy balance, because, you know, we all have our own things to deal with. But what are your thoughts on how to deal with that? Like, what would you say?
I've got a couple of opinions on that, because I do have a counselling certificate as well. So
oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I did that about 10 years ago now. So it's something that I'm really passionate. I really think that we are doing a disservice to young hairdressers by not giving them an opportunity to learn that during TAFE. Yeah. Because I think, you know, all we ever talk about is, you know, graduation, uniform, increased layer, and, you know, bleach application, and we don't actually talk about the nitty-gritty stuff excuse me, that we do every day. And
resources.
Yeah, and, you know, so I think, I mean, for me and for my team, one of the things that we do is we actually put ourselves in an energy bubble before we actually start our clients. So, you know, it's about kind of protecting that energy first of all, so that if someone is going to hit you with their trauma, like you've kind of got a little bit of an energetic barrier. Now, I'm super woo-woo as well. So, you know, like I do Reiki in all the doorways of my salon, and I put it in my color, in my products, all that kind of stuff, right? So, you know, like, so energy is really important, but also I think that you really, if you can't handle it, then you need to just say, you know, like, if you can't steer the conversation away from that, then maybe you need to say, look, I'm not really coping with this conversation. I would really like to help you. Maybe we could find a service, you know, and then jump on Google together, you know, like, let's Google something. That's something that I do with my clients all the time. I'm like, get your phone out, let's Google, you know, like support for whatever. And so you're not just kind of like deflecting their issue.
Not shutting them down, yeah.
You're not shutting them down, and you're actually like being helpful in a communal kind of way. So you're like, let's find this, and you know what, this might help me in the future, because then I've got that information that I need to, I can share with somebody else.
Yeah, that's
I think
great.
if I can just say that, you know, like, just on that, as hairdressers, we so naturally want to be able to give so much straight away. And, you know, like, one thing that I recognize in my younger self is that, as a hairdresser, is that I'd often give way too much of that kind of like headspace to the conversations that the clients are having with me. Whereas, you know, like, now, like, I'm 33 in a couple months, like, that's not very old, I know, but like, with the experience of having that kind of like people know-how, you actually get to a point where you just go, you know what, like, I can choose to absorb as much of this conversation as I want, or I can set up, like, you know, boundaries around the conversation. I mean, that's not taking away from clients who may be having very, you know, stressful or very painful experiences in their life. Of course, we want to give to them. We want to give a lot. We want to hear them. We want to support them. We want to heal them. But I think it's really crucial that, you know, like, we respect
you protect
ourselves
your
first.
energy. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that, you know, going back to what you said, Megan, around TAFE being responsible for this type of, you know, induction into the industry and into, you know, like, you know, helping with the people side of things, the development side of things, I agree with that. But I also think that, you know, having myself worked across lots of different huge salons with lots of people, I think it's important that that practice starts in the business first, because that's where young hairdressers are spending most of their time. And I love that you do that. And I know that, you know, anyone on this panel would do the same with their teams. But I think, you know, having those conversations with your team and, you know, putting into practice these kind of like woo-woo, as you said, techniques, I don't think they're woo-woo. I'm all for them.
I think they're embraced a lot more than they used to be, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where the change could happen, is, you know, like, daily mantras in the salon, you know, that bring the team together so that everyone's operating on the same frequency.
Yeah. We do a morning huddle. Every morning we have 15 minutes before our clients come in, and we do a huddle together. We manifest for the day, and, you know, and we go through our client list and see who we've got. And if we have a problematic client, or, you know, like, which we don't really have, because the Reiki works as a dickhead shield. So
can you buy that?
I'll teach you how to do it.
Right.
But yeah, so, you know, like, we have those daily huddles so that we can actually have a look at our book and make sure that we're kind of bringing our best selves into the day, and also making sure that we're supported where we need to be.
Dan, can you give us some info about what you do? Because obviously that was part of your intro, sort of like, you incorporate spiritual and holistic practices into your work. So that is a lot of woo-woo stuff, as we've been.
Yeah, I want to know what you do.
How does it work for you?
Well, I'm all for the woo-woo. Like, I mean, I'm very much brought up, like, that's the culture I'm brought up in. So it's something that I'm very familiar with, you know, energy work and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like an old religion in the culture that I'm brought up in. So that stuff I'm very, very familiar with. And it comes quite natural to me because I incorporate that into my work. So I guess being brought up in a very old culture, it does influence and impact personal development for me, because it's influenced the way that I interact with other people. And then that's brought aspects into my professional life, which is what I incorporate a lot into the work that I do. So, I mean, many of you will see that it has like hair botanist on my handle. And basically that's like, a botanist is a person that works with like plants. So basically the work that I do is I'm very much involved in like scalp and hair care. So I utilize plants and fruits and things to kind of like, I work with that in bringing about healthy awareness. I mean, awareness to healthy scalp and hair. That's the type of work that I do. And there's a lot of energy work that I do as well. Like I like to incorporate like sound frequencies and solfeggio and all that stuff while people are at the basin, and different massaging techniques that kind of release red blood cells and that, and utilizing like blue and red LED lights as well into the surface, into people's services. So, I mean, it's all encompassing for me. So I'm all for the woo-woo and protecting one's energy and all
I
those
I think hairdressers and crystals kind of go hand in hand, don't you think? Like, name one person that hasn't got like a crystal in their trolley or, you know, on their self, you know.
We don't have any in the salon. I'm thinking that I might have when we
That surprises me, Mia.
to put in everybody's trolley for when we get back.
Put a
Yeah, but there's
cork
quite
on your
often
front door.
photos. There's quite often photos of crystals on all of your tiles. So you're tapping in, sister.
Oh, true.
It's
All
a
right.
quartz and selenite.
I wanted to talk about it as well. Something that everything that everyone said definitely is where it's going. And I had a vision last year where I was like, I'm going to rewrite the barbering curriculum to incorporate this stuff, to incorporate
I
mental
thought you were
health.
just going to say the Bible. Sorry. I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
you-
Yeah, that too.
That's next. He's got the hair.
Yeah.
And then I really thought, like, I sat down and I was like, where do you even start writing this thing? And then you've got to get it approved, and then the government's got to support it and everything else. And I was like, well, how about I actually just start doing the work in salons, in barbershops, and create like a 6-week program where I actually go and facilitate those structures. And then we're going to move to a place where the AHC is going to have to go like, shit, no one's coming to TAFE anymore because they're doing all the things in the work, and they're actually enjoying that and sustaining that much more effectively. So they have to adopt it.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's almost like going around it.
The difficult thing at the moment is like people have asked, because everyone's experiencing this same problem, like, oh, I'm losing staff, I can't find staff. It's like, well, if we fix the culture, that takes care of it.
Yeah.
So I've put these proposals together for them, and no one's got back to me about it. So it's like, there's a few things where I can see, obviously the business owners need to see the metrics of how that actually generates income and things like this. So
yeah.
I'm still kind of melting it into where it's going to fit.
Do you want me to help you send an angry email?
So you get shit done, is it, Laura? Because I know that you're making a lot of progress in a lot of areas. And I didn't realize it was sassy emails.
Mr. Whatever. Yeah, I love it. It's my
that
favorite.
topic about where have all the hairdressers gone, that's coming in at number 7. So I'm going to stay in our order, but we're going to come back to that. And Jake, I'd love to hear some of the things that you've suggested. Our third topic today is mentors. So this is actually a question that came through one of the Facebook, Instagram little chat box icons. And it was all about mentors. So how did you get to where you are? And are mentors even still a thing? Sort of how has the industry either helped you with mentors, or how is it changing with mentors? Maybe I'll go to Michael for that one first.
Yeah, look, I think I actually dropped this in our conversation list as well, because I think it's really, you know, like there's this huge kind of like rush that the younger generation are feeling to be Insta famous. It's like really prevalent across the industry, and I think a lot of other different industries as well. But, you know, like I really wanted to know if people are still engaging mentors to facilitate their own personal growth. I mean, like myself, I haven't gotten to be here today on my own. Like I've had amazing mentors who have guided and nurtured my growth and added like beautiful knowledge bombs along the way, which has made me be the best person that I am today and the best capacity to be a mentor to people around me. And I think that, you know, like it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a lost art, I feel. You know, like some people aren't engaging with their, with people around them who have that level of experience and understanding to facilitate their growth. Do you know what I mean? Like they're kind of missing that step of leaning into the people who kind of, it's our right and our responsibility to grow the younger generation. But I feel like I don't necessarily see that happening as much. Or maybe people aren't paying homage to their mentors quite like, you know, we would, you know, where it's like, you know what, I am what I am today, but also I've got these people to thank for this journey that I've been on. You don't see that so much anymore. So I suppose it's more of an open-ended response rather than a statement. But that's where I was at around the mentorships, if that makes sense.
I've just had Belinda Healy's just jumped on in the Facebook group and she said yes to mentors. And Belinda was actually probably one of my first biggest mentors and I guess, you know, in many ways, one of my stage mums. So, you know, I think with your mentors as well is that you can't just wait for them to come and get you. Sort of how I ended up getting mentored by Belinda, it's quite a funny story actually. She plays at a very, very high representative level for underwater hockey. And so does Amanda, who has worked for me for 9 years. So her dad also plays at Australian level for underwater hockey. So of course, the connection between Amanda and Amanda's dad, Belinda had offered for Amanda to come down to Melbourne and assist on a photo shoot. And when I saw that Amanda had the opportunity, I went and looked at my column and I said, I'm going to move all of those clients. And I actually sent her, not an angry email, but an email, and it worked. And I said, oh, you know, just want to know if I could tag along. And that's how I ended up striking up that friendship with her. And I'm so grateful for that because of that opportunity, you know, I've been able to do things like Colour Queens and travel around Australia and New Zealand with Belinda. So I think mentors are amazing. And there's no way I would have got to do half of the things that I've done today up until this point without having a cheer squad or someone to hold my hand and guide me along. Who are your mentors?
Me?
Everybody.
Oh, well, since I was just on like talking, you know, like, I mean, Cherie Noble's been an amazing asset to my growth as a colorist and also as a person. I don't know if you guys watching, guys on the panel know Anne-Marie Mason. We worked very closely together for many years and I still consider her such a great mentor to me if ever I need to tap into her. But I'd say those guys are probably the two leading ones. And then I have also peers who are on the same level as me who I dip into like so like regularly. Marie Unali, I'm obsessed with her. Renee from Alua, you know, like, I mean, Mia, we've chatted along the way. Like mentors don't necessarily, for me, don't have to be such a, you know, like it's not like a needy relationship. It can also be someone who I kind of like tap into and I go, you know what, that like conversation left me feeling refreshed and reset. So yeah, that's where I kind of dive into mentorships in like different ways that aren't so, you know, like tight all the time.
Oh, Megan, we've lost you.
Maybe she's muted. No?
Yep, Megan was muted. All right, maybe Jake or Laura, did you guys want to go next while we see if we can sort out Megan's sound?
Yeah, Jake, do you want to go?
Yeah,
I've got heaps to say, so.
2 years ago, I went to a retreat and it was kind of from there that I actually went into the personal development side of things and actually took on like a personal development mentor. And something that they said to me, I remember I was in Bali on a retreat and I was halfway through the experience and he said to, he was giving guidance to everyone. And I said to him, what do you see for me? Because I was frustrated at like where I was going in my future. And he said, what do you see for yourself? And it was indirectly like the most powerful comment that anyone could have ever said, because then I essentially had to become my own mentor. But in saying that, there's so many people that I couldn't name that have opened doors for me. So I think it's a responsibility that we have to remember that we can also open doors for so many other people, whether they're on different levels, whatever. We are mentors for the community within the industry. Yeah. And that when I say we is like every single hairdresser.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to jump in just because I have like a few different topics to say on this. I think I read a book. I can't remember if it was Simon Sinek or someone along those lines, where it said, you know, you don't necessarily walk up to someone and say, hey, can you mentor me? Because that is asking for quite a lot of labor. But whereas mentors just tend to happen, whether it's someone in your salon, someone in your peer group, or, you know, just people you mesh with. So I think probably my unofficial mentor is Mandy Kingsman. She has helped me through so much in life as well as work, and I still hold a really, you know, we have a really good relationship, both personal and professional. So another thing as well, I agree with Jake, we have a responsibility to be mentors, and my DMs are always open for people that want to have a chat. However, I have had to, much like the other conversation about protecting energy, I have had to be a little bit more ruthless if people are not so serious, and they tend to sort of take a lot of your energy and then not a lot happens from it. Or, you know, it's a hard one to navigate because you want to give so much, but much like we do with our clients, there has to be some boundaries as well. And I've also hired a business coach, someone that is separate from the industry that can give me a perspective as a whole. And I think that that's super important as well. But in terms of personal mentorship, I've also done quite a lot of retreats and things like that on my personal side of things, because I think it's important. They do obviously come hand in hand. So that's kind of everything I have to say about mentors. I think they're super important. And I can't wait for someone, Bestie.
Megan, have you got sound now? No. What's going on?
I'll go on my phone.
Okay. Oh, we can hear you.
We heard her.
Wait, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Am I back?
You're back.
Am I back?
You're back. Okay, so you had plenty to say, but we didn't hear it.
I've got so much to say on this because I felt like I was really floundering in my career for quite some time, and I was just sort of treading water, and I sort of put it out to the universe, and I was like, I really feel like I need a mentor, like I need someone to come into my life who's willing to guide me to where I want to get to. And just by chance, one of my friends said to me, she was working for Matrix at the time, and she said, we're putting on a show tomorrow. We don't have enough hairdressers to help out. Can you come and help? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to, no problem. And that was like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night to go on the Sunday and do it. So I went and did that. I met Stevie English, and, you know, we did some color magic together, and it was incredible. And then the year later, they did the playground tour again, and they asked me to come along and help again. Now, I was not a Matrix color ambassador or anything, didn't have their color, none of their products in my salon. And I went and helped out again, and I met Kobe Bokshish, and he just yelled out, as Kobe does, in the middle of the room, that he wanted me to come and do his hair expo show. And I was just like, that's crazy, but nothing else was said. And I just thought, fuck it, if I don't put myself out there and message him, I'm never going to know, and it's not going to happen. So I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, thanks for having me. I had a really great time. You said you wanted me to do your show. What time do I start work? And he was like, yep, be in the salon at 8 o'clock. I paid for my flights to Sydney. I paid for my own accommodation because I just wanted to go and do the things that he does. And I made it very clear that I was someone who was willing to do the work. And so they made a space for me on the Matrix team so that he could mentor me. So then I spent a year traveling around Australia with Kobe, which was equal parts amazing, frustrating, and like mind-blowing. And, you know, like he really pushed me to do things that I wouldn't have done, you know, like I won South Australian Hairdresser of the Year. And because I did a colour one day, and he was like, you're ready. it's time to do it. And working with him, I realized that I'm motivated by shame. So if I'm letting somebody down, like my mentor, and they look down on me for that, then I'm going to work so much harder. So, you know, but like, I think you really need to be vulnerable and to put yourself out there, but also show that you're willing to put in the work.
I think that's probably a really big key takeaway for me, hearing you say that, you know, you were the one that made the call. You didn't sit around waiting for him to get in touch. You were like, he said this comment to you, you thought about it, he hadn't got in touch. So you reached out to him and said, hey, these are the steps that I'm going to go to. I'm going to pay for my flights. I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to take no for an answer, basically, which is what you said. And I think, you know, there was a great story years ago that I would have heard Renya say about how she got to work with her hair hero. And it was basically, I think she flew to Paris or France or something, and she just kept turning up to the hotel until one day she was able to just get in on the team. And that's how she started working with Eugene Suleiman. So it is sort of one of those things where you kind of do need to use your elbows to squeeze your way in.
Yeah.
This is another topic that I think is a huge one in our industry. And I think there's two topics that kind of go together. So tall poppy syndrome. I think that would be one that would come through with a lot of people wanting to be educators maybe and not having worked their way through the ranks, as well as imposter syndrome. And I think imposter syndrome comes down to almost everything in our industry, charging what we're worth, are we good enough, sort of all the weird insecurities that we as an industry typically have. Who wants to go on that one first?
Just before we get into the conversation, Mia, do you want to let everyone who's watching who may not know what tall poppy syndrome is, do you want to let them know what it is just so they can get a scope of it?
Well, I think
to me, it's a little bit of an old school, like,
So I guess tall poppy syndrome is tearing someone down when they're on the way to the top, sort of saying that they shouldn't be there or they haven't earned the right to be there. I think it is one of those things that they say Australia is very, it's a bit of our culture really, sort of, you know, as soon as we don't like someone when they're successful. So
it's kind of like wanting them to come up, but nowhere near the top near you. Like, I want you to succeed, but no, not near me. Just stay where I can see you.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Kind of, it's like, yeah, your success is to my detriment.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good, Megan. Good point.
Yeah, that was a better way. Way better. I'm doing hand movements.
Who wants to talk about this one first?
Can I say something? I think, you know, I mean, tall poppy syndrome is something that's been around forever. But I think, you know, with the rise of social media and stuff like that, you know, there's probably a whole heap of hate watching that goes on. And, you know, I think like we are all guilty of seeing someone succeeding on social media and just seeing that snippet of it and being like, oh, fuck you, you know, like, and, you know, I have this thing where I'm like, okay, if I'm reacting like that, if I'm being triggered by somebody else's success, what is that saying about me and where I'm at in my journey? And so one of the things that I will do is, if I'm feeling triggered, I will actually send that person a really nice message.
You sent me a book once.
That just shows where she was at.
It was out of nowhere.
That wasn't because of that. Just messages me. Just messages.
Oh,
you know, like, I think, like, you know, we have to check ourselves, you know, like, if I'm feeling super conflicted about somebody else's success, then it's holding a mirror up to me. So, you know, how can I change my behavior so that I can actually get there? And you know what? It's when I did that my life really started to change.
Well, that's accountability, isn't it? Like, that's super insightful. Very much.
I think, you know, I do something similar to you, Megan, when I get on Instagram into a vortex. And if I feel that anything doesn't, like, it triggers me in the wrong way, I know that's the time where I either need to put that person's profile on mute, or I need to get off Instagram for a good couple hours, because, you know, like it comes back to the other side of the conversation, Mia, around imposter syndrome. And, you know, like I think actually imposter syndrome for me is really healthy. I know that sounds weird because, you know, like people say that they're battling with it or whatnot, but I think it keeps my ego in check and it keeps me in check, which is like for me very healthy. But you know, it comes back to like that tall poppy moment where if I'm watching someone else's success and it kind of brings something to me, I need to disengage, and I also need to then spend that time looking at myself and go, okay, how's this rubbed me? Why do I feel like this? Do you need to go for a walk? Do you need to exercise? Do you need to eat something, have a glass of water? And usually when I do those things, that's when I go, oh, okay, cool. I can unmute that person and just get over myself a little bit. But
it's parenting yourself.
Absolutely. And holding yourself accountable, right, Laura? But I think, you know, like tall poppy I feel in our industry is a bit of a dying kind of like attribute to the industry. I feel like it's a little bit old school to have that tall poppy syndrome.
I was just about to say, I don't think it exists at a younger level. I think it exists at a much old school level. I think that
what sort of age? Like what's old school? What would you say?
I would say that there is a lot of resistance maybe from old leaders for young leaders coming up.
Yeah.
Say that. Jake, you put your hand up. What did you want to say?
Two things. Megan was talking about her project Unity and something that Nathan Yip and I are doing similarly, bootleg project. So I was going to say, because of a lot of the old structures that have been created in the industry, it's created this division and this tall poppy thing. And I think what's been beautiful, and I know like Megan and I have spoken about it, with our projects, we've actually taken the stage away. And it's like that subliminal stuff where everyone's actually just on the same level. And we're bringing in people that have never done education before to come and educate. And we, again, coming back to the role that we each have as mentors, we can open doors for other people no matter where they are. And essentially that's just dissolving the layers and we're all on this neutral playing field.
Yeah. I think, you know, like I think when I think of that, you know, like who it is, it's like Mia, it's probably like our old bosses, you know, like that kind of generation. It's like I was treated like shit as an apprentice, so therefore you need to work for free and scrub the floor with the toothbrush, you know, like
kind of like eating your young.
Yeah, totally. And I really feel like that it's not like that anymore. It may be in some spaces, but I think that it's becoming less and less because, you know, people want to stay in the industry.
Correct. The people like the more experienced, because you don't want to say like the older generation, but the more experienced, the people who've had a stake in the game for a little bit longer, you know, it's all about relevance, right? So like, how do they stay relevant? And, you know, like I think about this for myself and the trajectory of my career. And I'm like, you know, it's engaging with up and coming, supporting them, you know, because like, which I actually haven't found a lot of the, you know, like more experienced generation, like the bosses, the, you know, people we've worked for to come up in the industry, haven't been as, you know, like supportive when it comes
collaborative
to the success and the growth of, you know, like the generations ahead of them. Where I think like the generation that we're in now, it really leans more towards a supportive nature for up and coming talent, you know, like I think everyone wants to be, I got you, Laura, everyone wants to be an educator. But I think that, you know, when you have that goal in mind, you need to think about who you're serving as an educator. Why are you doing this? If it's about you and your growth and your platform increasing and, you know, like your popularity rising, your Instagram growth happening, like probably being an educator isn't the right place to be for you. You know, like you can be an influencer and you can talk about influence in the industry through your social platforms. But I mean, like the heart and soul of education is it's selfless. You know, it's not about you because it's very tiring, as all of you know, but which is also very rewarding. It's not like it's, you know, exhausting, but it can be tiring. You give so much to so many people around you that, you know, it's not really a glory role. You know, it should never be about that. So that's when people are like, I love education, I want to be an educator. It's like, cool, why do you want to do that? You know, like, look at yourself and think, how am I going to give back before how is the industry going to give back to me to then grow my platform? Does that make sense?
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, versus, you know, influencer versus educator. You're getting a lot of love on the Facebook Live as well. Sorry, I think was it Laura that had put her hand up?
Yeah, Laura.
So I just wanted to touch on, I mean, both sides of it. So recently I reached out to Dan to have a chat about his role their role. Dan, is it there?
Yeah, it is there.
Apologies.
No worries, all good.
Their role in like movies and stuff like that. And they called me and we had a conversation for like an hour and a half, and they gave me so much information and was so forthcoming with all of it. And I was like, thank you so much. But Dan was like, you know, this is how I would want to be treated. This is, you know, not holding back, not keeping or safeguarding or gatekeeping all of that information. So I appreciate that, Dan. So that's one side. On the other side is I'm trying to break into more makeup as well. That's something, Mia, as you know, we're hopeless makeup lovers, but it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but have been too nervous because I've never wanted to leave my lane, which is hair, which is cutting specifically. So it's been really difficult for me. I've reached out to like probably 50 makeup artists that I've worked with, that I'm friendly with. And I've actually had really honest conversations with some of them. And they've said to me, like, when I'm asking for assistance, like, let me come and assist you. I don't want to be paid. Like, I do not want any of this. I just need some hands-on experience. But some of them are like, I don't want you to come on, learn what I have, take what I have, and then go and do your own thing. And it's like, whoa, like, that's left their mouths, that they don't want to teach the next generation in fear of losing their clients. And that shocked me. That actually shocked me, because firstly, I'm not going to be stealing your clients. That's just not in me. But secondly, I don't know, it just felt like a really fear-driven thing. And so I still, to this day, I did my course maybe a year ago now, haven't been able to assist. So I just do my own makeup all the time and make my friends sit there and have that. But that's sad. Like, that breaks my heart that people are thinking like that. And these are people that are maybe 30, 40.
I think it's like one of those things in like the hair industry as well, though, isn't it? Like, you know, it's like a salon's opening up down the road. I don't want them to steal my clients. And, you know, I am fully of the belief that my only competition is me yesterday. You know, like that there is enough people with hair out there for all of us. And, you know, like if there's something that I can't service someone with in my salon, I would be more than happy to guide them to a salon that I know can do it. And I think that, you know, I can only speak for the hair industry, but I think that this is something that we're really all coming about, you know, really understanding. And that's for me something with unity as well. It's like it's connecting salons, it's connecting hairdressers, and it's creating community within our industry. And, you know, because we all do understand that there are more than enough people, and your vibe attracts your tribe. And, you know, like maybe that's an industry that's kind of just about to come around to that trope as well.
I think it's definitely a tough one, because it does sit side by side. And, you know, like we are all for supporting people's highs and successes, and then we all support each other if there are lows as well. But, you know, we live in a society that promotes like egalitarian principles. And then if you go above or outside of that, you're seen as like antisocial or or go against the dominant culture kind of thing. And then works like in a hierarchical system. And then for me, it's always about self-reflection. It just reflects on you, the individual, personally. So when it comes to those types of things, I think it does sit side by side, like the tall poppy syndrome and the imposter syndrome. And, an experience I've had, like when I first started, I came from a space where it didn't matter who you are, whether you're an apprentice or an up-and-comer or a senior or a director, everyone complemented each other. So, another stylist will always go up to another stylist at the end of their service with a client and be like, that was amazing work. Like, that's a blow dry that was really, really good. And then stepping into another space where it was just foreign. When I used to like compliment other artists, I'm like, that color was amazing. And they would just look at you funny and be like, what a weirdo. So, I mean, like, it depends on, for me, it's always a self-reflection of who you are.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
It's really
Absolutely.
interesting. Sorry, if I can just share a personal experience, when we're talking about mentors, because I think mentors really ties into this conversation, in the early days of my, my career, I had two main mentors for own and color perspective. Cherie was one of them, and I actually worked alongside another colorist for a good part of my apprenticeship. I'm not going to name who it was because I don't think that's fair. But, going back to the style of mentor and how that person, influences you, like the relationship that I shared with Cherie in a time of growth was so significantly different to the relationship that I shared with the other hairdresser who I was working alongside. I remember days where, working alongside this other hairdresser, that I would have her, come over to me while I'm doing my clients and whisper things in my ears like, how come you're stealing all of my techniques? Why are you doing this? Why are you taking my clients? And there's me, I'm like 21, just come out on the floor, leaving her mentorship and like taking my own clients and having this person trying to bring me down while I'm trying to build myself up. And I think it's a really interesting, if you're that person in this industry, like your relevance is diminishing at a rapid speed. And I think that
name them.
I don't want to, it's not fair. I think that person's no longer in Australia. They've gone back to the UK. So maybe you guys can do the maths, right? But I think that, Dan, you and I had a similar experience at the same time, right? But I think that, when you are in a salon environment, you have the opportunity to add an impact or influence to every single person that you work around, regardless of the level that you're at. So you can be an apprentice and you can be adding light to someone who's been in the industry for 40 years, and I think with that mentality, and this is something I've always taught the teams that I work with, is that, it's not just up to the educators or the senior level management for those people to be great mentors to people around them. It's everyone's responsibility. And I think that, going back to the B mentor that I had, the one that I don't want to mention, I never mentioned when we spoke about mentors before, think about whether or not you want to leave that legacy with the people that you work around. And, I know myself, I've had to grow so much from that headspace of mentorship, right, to being who I am today. But that required me looking at those actions and going, that's something that I don't want to ever be known for. And, working every week of my life to be different to that level of mentorship. I think, you have a choice in the salon or in whatever environment that you're in, how you impact people around you.
Absolutely. I think, for me, I say to my team all the time, I want you to be better than me. I want you to be better than me. I want you to do more than me. I want you to have a bigger clientele than me. That's what I want for you. That's my dream. And I think, with Unity, one of the things that, our philosophy is, if we can raise the opinion of hairdressers with hairdressers, then hopefully we can raise the opinion of hairdressers within the community as well, because that's where it starts. We have to empower hairdressers to charge what they're worth and to say no to doing extra hours and, you know, and all of those things, so that then we can actually go out into society and say, you know what, we deserve to be paid $500 for doing this hair that has taken us 5, 6, 7 hours to do, you know, and without that imposter syndrome, you know. And so we, you know, like if we can support hairdressers to be great hairdressers, then, you know, the more great hairdressers that are out there, then the more happy clients are going to be.
It's just like elevating the industry. Jake, what's up?
Yeah. And I think, you know, one of my pet peeves with our industry is we are so good.
Got one? You've only got one.
But you know, like we are so great at celebrating the industry within the industry. And
it's preaching to the converted.
Oh, I'm so sick of it. And it's like, we need to stop like pumping each other up and start actually getting out into the community, getting on TV, doing whatever we fucking can to show people just how educated we are, how creative we are, how organized, together, supportive, you know, all of those things, all of the great things that this industry is, because I really do truly believe that there's more great than bad. But, you know, like we need to get it out there.
Jake, you had something to say?
It starts with the management. And I think exactly what you were saying, Megan, just a lot of staff, actually I want to go to talent, not even staff, but respecting the team by the way we speak to them. And, you know, a lot of the younger people feel intimidated by the management, so they're not willing to feel comfortable to have the conversations with what their needs and values are. So if the management can take it upon themselves to be more vulnerable and actually come down and be on the floor and interact and engage, I think that totally changes the dynamic within the team in the workplace.
100%. And, you know, like, I think I said this on a live the other day. Laura, was it the one that we were with Stuart? It's like a lot of salon owners open businesses without the people management skills, you know, without the growth and development skills to add like that great culture and community to their business. They just go in there, you know, like, and this is not like saying that that's the wrong thing to do. It's just saying that, you know, like, I agree that, you know, like culture starts from the top. And, you know, like, I think even like salon managers who aren't the business owner, like it's so crucial that they're upskilled in the best way to give back to teams, because like I always cringe when I hear the word staff. It absolutely crushes me. I'm like so much more of a team player. I like to hear people talk about their teams rather than their staff, because it's like payroll versus, you know, like community, family. But I think that, you know, like those people who are just being hired to answer the phones, to make the appointments, to make sure that the run of the ship is happening, like they may not come from the industry that we have grown up in, you know. So it's so crucial that those people who are such a big part of the environment experience for like team players, that they are upskilled in, you know, like the best way to, you know, handle conflict resolution, the best way to, you know, like, and I'm not talking about clients, I'm talking about team, because when team is good, everything is good, you know. And I think that like, it's so important that those people have like the right tools before they do too much damage in a business, to make sure that, you know, like people don't leave, people feel heard, people don't feel intimidated by that upper level management. Does that make sense, guys?
I think sort of everything that you guys have said has all just come back to personal development. Everybody needs to work on themselves as well as the technical aspect. But I think if you're going to lead a team, if you're going to get in front of people and be an industry leader or an industry influencer or be a salon owner, that if you're in one of those roles, that it has to be personal development. It has to be so high on your list to be able to do it successfully. So I think that's one of those things that I think really stands out probably with everybody that's on my screen today here in this group. Like, you guys have all done a lot of work on yourselves to get to where you are today.
And Mia, don't you think, because I suppose, you know, you and I both are coming from this perspective of we lead teams. And, I think that what happens a lot of the time is, because like, I know when I started growing my team, I was like, fuck, I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's mortgage, like that. It was just terrifying. And so I think that, definitely back then I was leading from a place of fear, because I was like, well, we're not making enough money. Like, I've got rent, I've got this, and I've got their car loan to pay, and, all of that kind of stuff. And so for me, one of the best things that I did was I got a business mentor. And, so like, then I could put all of those things in the right boxes and learn how to lead my team. Because the person stuff, like, I'm obsessed with human relationships. Like, you look at all of my podcasts that I listen to, it's all about human connection. But when it comes to all the business shit, I'm a creative. And, and I think that what happens so often is us creatives open businesses and then don't necessarily know what we're doing.
Panic.
Yeah, and then we panic, and then we lead from fear, which then puts our teams into a situation where, it's a real spiral. And so, like, it's so important. And I know, like, Jake and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago about, like, how to change that. And it's like, we've got to, you don't want to just call out bosses and go, you know what, you're being a shit boss. Like,
sometimes
it needs to
we need
be
that, though. I think whenever my team said that to me,
some
I've been
people
always
need
like,
that.
all right, cool, time to wreck myself before I wreck myself. But I think they also need to be at a level where they can pull you up.
Like,
you need to be able to have them to be able to look at you and kind of go, you know what, this isn't good. Where you are right now, not good.
Yeah,
totally. You never want to have that fear that you're unapproachable. I mean, and there should be boundaries around, like levels of respect, right? But I think that teams should always feel comfortable to go, I don't feel great the way you've spoken to me. I think we could have handled it better. I would prefer to have this conversation in private as opposed to in front of 3 other team members and 2 clients, I just wanted to say on this as well, like, there's probably a lot of people who are watching who maybe are like, fuck, like, what book do I need to read? What podcast? What, like, like,
I'm going to yell at my boss tomorrow.
Yeah, bringing up this anxiety in them that might be like, I'm not doing enough to develop myself. And I just want to say, like, you can read a lot, you can watch a lot, you can listen to a lot, but a lot of the periods of growth to me have been involuntary, right? So the most I've grown is in tight situations where I've had to succumb to myself and go, you know what, this is the journey and I'm going to learn a lot from this. And whether I realized it at the time or it was something I realized after, like, yes, read the books, they're amazing. Listen to the podcast, they will help you. But, sometimes just give in and go, this is where I'm at and this is going to help me grow. And I had some fucking tough times where, I had one boss, I got you, Laura. I had one boss who was like, and this is for the people at home, not so much the panel, but one boss who was like, MK, you can't say that. MK, you can't do this. The team don't feel good like this. And this is when I was really growing, right? And I look back and at the time I was like, holy shit, this is too much pressure, but it didn't break me. It turned me into a diamond version of myself. I know that sounds corny, but like woo-woo, right? But I mean, like, it's those periods of their periods of growth. So it's not necessarily, guys at home, in the books that you read or the podcasts that you listen to. It is in the conversations you have, but it's also sometimes it's involuntary. So
and
relax
the choices that you make.
Correct. Relax into it and know that whether or not your periods of growth are happening now, but they will come, like, they're always going to happen. So, like, don't panic by all these, like, the power of You're okay. Laura, what were you going to say before?
Oh, just touching on that as well. It's like, it is a journey. Like, if you look at all of our ages, I mean, I'm 32. Michael, you said you were 33 next week or month or something. I don't know how old you all are, but this has been, over a span of 10 to 15 to 20, however many years. So if you are in your first year on the floor looking at this, just take your time, because it's a journey and it's so much more enjoyable learning about yourself and your career, and not putting pressure on yourself. Otherwise, it's going to feel like work and you won't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to.
I have a beautiful team member who I love. I love them all, but Demi, she's in her 3rd year and she is like, I want to be where you are. And I'm like, Demi, it's taken me 21 years to get here. You know, like, I want it to be faster for you. And that's why I want to put all of this effort into you. But you do have to understand that where I'm at, you're not going to be at tomorrow. Because, my greatest growth has come after my greatest sorrows, and so it's because of those things that have happened in my life that have actually got me here, not necessarily just my skill.
I think one of the wisest things I've heard sort of on that sort of a topic would have been from Emiliano from E-Salon. So I think he was talking about a period in his life when he really wanted to win an award. I think he wanted to win, was it Hairdresser of the Year or something? There was something that he wanted to reach. There was a goal he wanted to attain. And it was one of those things where once he'd actually got there, he realized looking back that everything he thought getting that goal was going to give him, it was actually the journey that got him there. So it was really funny for him to look back and reverse and kind of go, hang on, all the things that I thought this award was going to give me, I'd actually collected along the way. So I think that's something that, as someone, young, maybe starting out, to really sort of sit with that and realize that the things that you think you want aren't what you're going to get at the end. It is always the journey. But I think
you're so impatient when you're young. So impatient.
Still impatient when we're old.
When I won South Australian Hairdresser, I'd had a lot of turmoil in my family at that point. And I was like, I'm going to win this and then everything's going to be okay. I won it and I didn't tell anyone. I didn't talk about it. I just felt so disconnected from it because it didn't fix the things that I really needed to fix, and then it took some therapy and healing around that. But yeah, Jake.
It's the values that we're actually looking for. And I was brought to this place the other week where I went to the farmers market for the first time, and the people I bought my food from, I was able to have conversation and connection and relationships with them. And that exchange in receiving this food, I was so grateful for this food. And I'm walking back home with this box of food and I'm like, why do we let go of those values in pursuit of money for fulfillment when it's actually the values that we're looking for?
Capitalism.
It's true.
Yeah, it really just it's true though. Like it's so bizarre. Has anybody seen, just really off topic, has anybody seen the story of that young girl who escaped North Korea?
No.
Yes, I have.
Mind blowing.
Just pin that one.
Anyway, I take that little bubble and let that percolate for a moment. But definitely watch it. It gives you, especially people in lockdown, gives you a really great perspective on life. But anyway, moving forward.
Right. Well, we will move forward onto topic number 5 because we've been at it for an hour and a quarter and we're only halfway through. So blended pricing. Laura, this is something that you're super passionate about, so I might let you go first on this one.
Yeah, look, I think we've definitely touched on this quite a lot. And we've
How many angry emails did you send?
This year?
This week?
This week, no, none this week. But look, gendered pricing is something that I've implemented into my business. I'm a sole trader, so it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And as we've touched on previously, suggesting this when I was working for someone was quite quickly becoming disrespectful to their business model. So it was pretty evident to me that I had to wait for either working for a salon that was willing to take it on or start working for myself. So gendered pricing or genderless pricing is I now charge on skill, hair texture, type, what I'm doing, how much product I use, how long it's taking me, all of that kind of stuff. So it's quite common. It's just something that I seem to yell about a lot, and a lot of people are taking it on. I've had conversations with, people like Tom White that have just branched off into their own salon, and he thanked me for bringing it to his attention, I guess, or giving him the courage to do it for himself as well. So he also doesn't work Saturdays either, or like, I don't know, he's done something like you do, Mia. But I honestly thought that I would have some kickback, and I haven't, unless clients I know that have dropped off and I've just not noticed, but see ya. But it's been really good, really positive. I've spoken to Fashion Journal about it. I've done another article that should set to come out in a couple of weeks. It's great. It's really good.
Right. So here in Adelaide, we've got Parlour Hair Group. So Robert Barber runs that. So I think it was in 1990, there was a lawsuit that went through, and this woman basically sued a salon, or like brought it to the fore, and because her partner, who had long hair, like they literally had the same haircut, went and had a haircut, cost him $20, hers cost $60. And so back in 1990, Robert Barber was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So Parlour have never had, like, since 1990, have had gendered prices. Took me longer to get on board with that, I have to admit. But it's something that we did a few years ago, because we were like, well, just because you have a penis doesn't mean your hair should be cheaper. So
totally.
Yeah,
weird to consider people's genitals when charging them. So, like, essentially, that's what we're doing, right? So it's so funny. Just quickly, I think
that is applicable in lots of different facets of life. But yeah,
I know. I had like a cortisone shot last week on my foot, and the guy that was doing the ultrasound was like, "Oh, the nurses have been telling me that you're a hairdresser. You should have brought your scissors in." Ha ha ha. And it's like, yeah. And then he was like, "Oh, how much do you charge?" I'm like, "You don't want to come to me." And he was like, "Why?" And I told him what my price scale was, because I generally, it's a sliding scale. And he almost fell over. But then every time a nurse or a doctor came in, was like, "Don't go see her for a haircut because she charges this and she does it. I just want a $20 one." And it's like, yeah, but you're not my clientele. You're not the person I'm trying to convince that genderless pricing is important to our youth. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. There's still a lot of people to convince of this, for sure.
Also, Laura, don't you think that's what's beautiful about our industry, is that there's actually someone for everyone? There needs to be those $20 haircuts. There needs you know what I mean? Like, there is really something for everyone.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said.
Correct.
Sorry,
I personally, I really agree with, genderless pricing, specifically being a colorist who sometimes cuts, and predominantly female clientele. I kind of don't really have an opportunity to practice that. But if I had a business that was a salon team environment, which, my team players had a male clientele, I would absolutely have genderless pricing.
Do you think that color, MK, though, color is already genderless?
Yeah, I just have a highlight price, and I take anyone. And when I think about the times where I've had cis men, male identifying clientele coming to me who want to have their hair colored, I just charge them the same way that I charge everybody. So I think this conversation can specifically kind of come more towards a haircut environment. So that's where I kind of tap out a little bit, because I don't really do a whole lot of hair cutting. I do practice on some friends time to time, male friends, but not really a thing. But I fully support it. And I think that it is just a way of the world in terms of progression. And I think that our industry, with the help of you guys, are really leading other industries in the right path, I personally think.
I think being a business owner, which all you guys are, you're running your own books. So it's about understanding how much your time is worth. How much do I need to make? If I can do a haircut in 15 minutes, that's cool. But in 15 minutes, this is my cost. you know, like this is how much I need to make in 15 minutes. And so it's like, you know, it's where I suppose as a business owner, that business mentorship comes back into again, you know, is really understanding how to break down your pricing and knowing how much you need to charge, because really like your costs are genderless. You know, your electricity doesn't give a shit about genitals either.
So true. Yeah.
I never realized that we'd use the word penis and genitals so much in this conversation. But one of the things that I actually really want to do while I'm in lockdown, and it's on my list of things to do, is to actually go through and redo my price list. So that's one of the changes that I wanted to make. It was a conversation that I had with the team. Some of my team just didn't get it. Why would you bother? We're going to lose those clients. But like Michael was saying, we don't actually have a great deal of male clientele. I mean, we've already outpriced children. Like, we don't want to do kids' haircuts. Like, it's a firm no from me. So we make sure that they're real, like, how much is a kid's haircut for us? The same as an adult's haircut, because it's still going to take us as long. It's going to be painful. We don't want to do it. So, and
I'm probably going to cut myself heaps. So
I'm pretty sure that the guy that quoted my curtains for the salon has put in a price that was outrageous, because I think that he just came here, met me, was like, I don't want to work with this silly girl. And sometimes I don't want to work with this wriggly kid, so we don't do that.
Overpriced, yeah.
All right. So
sorry, Mia, if I can go back to just the genderless pricing and, you know, safe spaces. I think that this really comes back to communications and branding. And, you know, like when you make changes in your business, you really need to be aware of how you communicate it to your audience, because I think that there's a right way and a wrong way, and it comes down to the words you use and the environment you create. So communication is so important. And if anyone watching is contemplating these changes in their business, like, bring in a strategist who understands the art of communication. And I'm talking about, not necessarily talking like we are right now. I'm talking about like on purpose business communication to your audience, and, like what message you're putting out there and why you're making the change, because I think that's super, super important right now.
Dan,
yes.
What are your price structures? Because I know you work a lot with afro and really quite curly textured hair as well. How do you price your clientele?
It's just based on, similar to you, just on the service itself and the texture of the hair.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't price someone that has, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the levels of hair, like 2A, 3A, 4C type of stuff, but you can't charge someone that has 2B hair the same price as someone who has 4C hair, because it's a lot of work. Harder. Yeah, one hair texture is a lot more work than one. So, I mean.
Okay, cool.
In terms of cutting, Dan, in your salon, being non-binary, do you, when you're getting clients who are asking for pricing, like new clients, like how do you go with those conversations with the new clients that are coming into your business who maybe don't understand the way we work around here in your business?
Well, I'm a freelance artist, so I work in an amazing space, Zamira, which is Chrissy Zamira's space. And she's amazing. Like, she created a petition to get afro and textured hair into the curriculum for TAFE. I'm similar to you, Michael. Like, I'm a color technician, and I've kind of stayed in being a color technician. So I don't really cut so much hair that's at a certain level. If it's afro textured hair, yes, because it's something I'm very familiar with. But it's just, once again, that pricing structures is based on that hair texture.
Yeah.
All right, what I might do is I might start moving us on. It's 12:30 now, so I don't know. Andre, are you there? I'm assuming you're there, but you're hiding. What happens if we go over 2 hours? Are we good? You'll let me know in the chat, maybe? You might have
It's all good. Go ahead.
All right, cool.
What your bell was for, Mia?
Start ringing the bell.
I'm in the zone with you guys. Boys Club. So do we have any strong thoughts on hairdressing being a boys club? Mainly hairdressing at the top being a boys club? Is it because we all go and have babies and leave? Laura, that was one of the topics that you'd put forward. Am I throwing you under the bus there?
I asked her
Was that you that put that one through, Michael?
Yeah, no, because Laura and I...
Laura sent me the email. She gave me all the topics.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, I just put everyone.
We did the market research and was like, what do you guys want to talk about? But, you know, like one thing, I'm going to share an experience that I found really quite repulsive in with this industry. Last year in the last lockdown, right, Jay, a former employer of mine of Edwards & Co., he started the home color kits for his clients and, you know, like Edwards & Co. clients. And I was astounded by the battering that he received from the industry. Side note, have a look at how many salons are doing it right now. Hello. Anyway, that's a very separate conversation. But what I realized...
Topic number 8.
Yeah. What I realized at that time is that all of these hairdressers who were on their social platforms bashing Jay, sending him disgusting text messages about his physical health, wanting him to, you know, kill himself. It was only men. And I found that so interesting about our industry. It's like, why is some people who consider themselves top tier, influencers, educators, brand advocates, you know, finding it so necessary to absolutely rip this person apart right now in a time where we're all vulnerable and we're all suffering? And it was just, it showed me that there is a boys club. There's this real pack of boys, like high school bullying tactics, which really like, it defines how some of the industry perceives decisions that are made in the industry. So that's where I thought of this, is there a boys club culture in our industry? And if there is, what do people think about it?
I think that's so interesting that sort of when I read that topic, I read it completely different because of obviously where our experiences come from. So for me, boys club would be, I felt really uncomfortable when I was looking at changing hair color brands, having all of the, you know, the heads of the companies with their state managers come into my salon and be really like, take me out for uncomfortable lunches that I don't really want to go on because like, I just want to know, show me what's in your package. What can we do?
Show me this.
And then the other one for me was just like, yeah, like, sorry, what was that?
I think they're connected. I think like it's the same.
There's not just one, yeah.
I think so, you know, like I was working with Matrix when the team was all men. And
that's the first company I think of when I think boys club.
And you know, like, and I will be completely honest, and I said this, and I think it's tone deaf. I mean, you know, they have since changed it and changed all their branding around that and everything, which is great. That's fantastic. But at the time, you know, it like, and, you know, don't get me wrong, they are all men for the most part that I love, and who are very dear friends of mine. But I think, you know, it's like the powers that be that decided who went onto that team. And, you know, and they didn't see that there needed to be representation of women at all.
Or people of colour.
Just
or people of colour, you know, and like there's, you know, there are some amazing female educators that, you know, work for that company. And I'm only talking about that company because that was my experience. But, you know, like, yeah, I think that it's the powers that be need to, and it shouldn't be token either, you know, like, oh, we need 50% this or that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's amazing artists out there. And again, this is where unity was born, you know,
also
because
the powers that be up there as well, I personally think, are like middle-aged, white, overweight men who aren't even hairdressers. They're just businessmen, and they just like infiltrate the system and have female representatives like that go out there. But I think it's them that set like the standard and make all these choices. So it is definitely a boys' club. And they also make the decision of whether what we can and have in our like curriculums and things like that. And these guys aren't even hairdressers.
Right. And you know, like, yeah, I agree with you, Dan. And they're also the people at industry events who are rubbing shoulders and stroking egos of the other type of boys club that I mentioned previously. And it just creates this kind of like, you know, like this camaraderie between that upper level management and then this like, you know, like esteemed established salon owners, you know, educators, that type of thing. And it really makes you feel not a part of it.
It makes you feel like you're in a sausage fest. That is how I have felt numerous times. I've been sitting
It's a circle jerk.
why am I here?
Totally.
You're in a circle jerk.
You're in a circle jerk, even grosser.
I mean, not a circle jerk you want to be a part of. But the thing is, what I'm saying
Not
is
a consensual one.
correct. It feels very, very high school, you know, like Mean Girls, you know, like that high school. And I left high school and joined the industry because I couldn't stand being bullied anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like I left that environment to come into like a more, you know, inclusive community. And I think that like we still have work to do on that front. We've got heaps of work to do everywhere, but
the age of Aquarius, guys, it's changing. It's changing.
So the thing with the boys club, for me, like when Michael first suggested this as a topic, the first thing that comes into play for me is representation of women or non-binary or people of color, or even able-bodied and non-able-bodied people on these education platforms. So that's Matrix for me was a really good bad example of that, because it was just like white dude, white dude, white dude, white dude. And then anyway, we've touched on that. But secondly, you look at like Dyson, for example, there's more males than there is, I probably shouldn't have mentioned that, hey, than there is females. But then industry events is what bothers me, because when you think about how old our apprentices are that come in fresh out of school, 16, 17, 18, I was 17 when I started, going to industry events. And as a 32-year-old angry feminist now, when I'm at these events, I feel like I am constantly protecting these young girls, because it is so ripe in this industry to have this inappropriate behavior. Disgusting. And it is feral. So there is the last awards, whatever that one was, you know, I was hanging out with Amanda Tour, and by like 2 a.m, when I looked around, I was just like, no one's looking at your face. They're looking straight at your chest and commenting on your chest. And then you see at the same awards, there was a group of 3 or 4, I think it was 4 top people. Obviously, I'm not naming these people. While Dee had just received her Hairdresser of the Year award, yelling, talking over her, laughing, until I turned around and said, XYZ, shut the fuck up. Like, she's up there crying. She's just won Hairdresser of the Year. People are up like happy, and these 4 fuckwits are all just standing there talking over her. And it's just like that, just that in itself is a boys' club. But then you've also got, you know, I was walking to the bathroom with one of the apprentices from Edwards & Co. And I'd not been there for a while now. And just seeing, you know, someone that's won Hairdresser of the Year just ogle the fuck out of her, she's 18. And it's just like, that's what I don't like about this boys' club, because I was a 17, 18-year-old woman in this industry before, and I've had these uncomfortable situations with middle-aged men, and it's not okay. It's not okay. But these circle jerks just keep protecting one another, and this is the conversation that has gotten a little heated, and I don't mind if you want to bell me out, but this is what I don't like about the boys' club. It's that it's not safe.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that can be said for being a woman in any space, really. It's just, It feels like in a situation like that, it is so much more concentrated. And
and fueled with drugs and alcohol, because hairdressers love that.
I think like removing gender, you know, like I've had moments where I felt very uncomfortable myself. And, you know, like, I think it does come down to, you know, like responsible service of alcohol and drugs being such a big part of these industry events. And, you know, like, I mean, that's a very big nature of change that will need to happen for these events to maybe feel more safe. I personally tap out of the big events now because I don't want to get wasted, take drugs, you know, like have to talk shit with people, talk shit about people. Like, it just doesn't feel like it's what it should feel like for those events.
Honestly,
You know?
I loved it.
Shame that
Everything
you-
was cancelled last year. I didn't have to go and say hi to anyone. It was the best.
Yeah.
See, I love it. I love networking. I love going to these big events and I get to catch up with everybody. But it's just shitty that going into it that you're going to have to be hammered to deal with, oh, fuck, like 4 of my ex-bosses are here and they treated me like shit. Or like, oh, God, that guy pinned me up against whatever. Or like, oh, this chick's coming.
You love it and you hate it equally. Yeah, like I've spoken to people.
But I had it is good. It is fun. I do like it. But you shouldn't have to get obliterated.
No, to feel like you can talk to people. You know, like it's most of the conversation I have there is like, oh, like this is so shit, but like it's good to see you. I love you.
What did you think?
We're going to move on to the next question. This one's
I'm going to jump on that.
Yeah.
That's something that's been huge. I'm a white male in the barber industry and been so surrounded by it, like, and have witnessed it, and then was able to see what was happening. And so I wanted to step away from it because I was like, I don't want to associate myself with that. But then also going, fuck, I have a responsibility now to be an example of change. And so that's a lot of work. But for any males that are watching this as well, we need to protect the women. This is a very dominantly female industry. And if we don't change this, nothing changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it takes good men to call it out, right?
And so at the end of the day, it is, like you said before, MK, about a reflection of themselves and how insecure they are that they have to get validation from 18-year-old women. But yeah, that's that'll be a conversation later.
I might have to get all of you guys back again because I think people really enjoyed this. But I'm going to ask you a really weird, awkward question, Jake, because obviously everyone's been going on about how, you know, all these young, beautiful girls are getting hit on by guys. I was just watching your hair blow in wherever you are. Wow. And I know that I've been in a room where everybody is just frothed over Jake. And I'm assuming that drunk chicks at hairdressing events would probably, you know, rub their hands all over you as well. Have you been in these awkward situations?
Females, thank you very much. I think some of the boys, Jake, I think I probably have done it myself. Apologies.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Jake, so it's one of those things where I could see that he would probably get accosted in a room.
Why didn't you say that about me, Mia?
There's 2 aspects to it. So
your entourage.
One, I have to be controlled to not allow myself to be behaving in a way that's disrespectful, but also to be able to discern when someone's overstepped their boundaries as well. Like that's not an easy thing to communicate. And I'm saying this as a white male. I can't imagine how much harder that is for women who have already been intimidated by these men.
I really love you, Jake.
No, I've just written in the chat, protect Jake at all costs. Protect everybody at all costs.